So, what we're going to do tonight is essentially review, sort of review and summarize a lot of the things that we discussed last week in the last few shiurim, and basically going to put it all together with some things that were ischadish. So what we're going to be figuring out and putting all together here is that we're in Miketz Perek Mem Aleph, Pasuk Tes Zayin and Yud Zayin, basically focusing on those psukim. So let's talk about the fact that Yosef guaranteed the Shalom of Pare. Even before hearing the content of the dream, he committed, let's call it, right? He committed to Pare's Shalom. And we spoke about a lot about, and this is what we're going to put all together, the Mizmor Tehillim Pei Aleph, where it talks about Yosef going out to Mitzrayim. It's Sfas Lo Yadati Eshma. He heard the language that he wasn't familiar with, and the Sfas Hayaor in Pasuk Yud Zayin that Pare introduced, right? That Pare introduced to the story. Right. In the dream, the way the Torah describes in the beginning, he was Ayman al Hayaor, and he says, I'm al Sfas Hayaor. Okay. So let's review, just to explain what the significance of the Shalom Pare, what the significance is. Pare, Yosef has a job, and his job from the beginning of Parashas Vayeshev, when it says Va'aviv Shomar Es Hadavar, right? And his father told him, Lech na re'eh et shloim ha'checha ve'shloim ha'tzoyim ha'shiveni davar. So Yosef is looking for shalom, twice in the pasuk, shloim ha'checha ve'shloim ha'tzoyim, and he has to bring back the davar. Okay? The word. So the word, there's a word. We're looking for a davar. We're looking for a davar. That means there's a significance to a word, which obviously means a representation of what is. And that davar, the most important davar, is shalom. That is the word that a navi is supposed to bring. That we see in numerous places. One is in Yirmiyah Perek Chaf Ches, where Yirmiyah tells Hananya ben Azur, he tells him that the test of a navi is, in Yirmiyah Perek Chaf Ches Pasuk Tes, Hanavi asher yidaber asher yinaveh l'shalom, v'yivoy devar hanavi yivoda hanavi asher shlochei Hashem be'emes. So when a navi says shalom, when that comes true, that's when we know that in fact Hashem sent him. So that's the litmus test of a navi, is that his shalom works. On the other hand, we have the Nevi'im in Perek Chaf Gimel, the fake Nevi'im, in Perek Chaf Gimel in Yirmiyah. Perek Chaf Gimel in Yirmiyah. The Nevi'im, let's say start on Pasuk Yud Gimel, the Nevi'im that are Mas'im V'Yas'u Esami, they led them astray, which corresponds to Yosef, who was To'eh Bas-Sadeh, couldn't find his brothers and couldn't find the davar and didn't find Shalom. And they say, as it says in Pasuk Yud Zayin, they say to those who anger Hashem, Shalom yeh lachem, and they tell all those that are Heilas B'Shiras Liba, they tell them, Lo Savai Aleichem Hara. So the Nevi'ei Sheker say Shalom to those who really didn't earn Shalom, right? And they don't really know the truth. And these are the Nevi'im, as Yirmiyah continues in Perek Chaf Gimel, talks about they're not really Nevi'im, they're just dreamers, right? So here we have this question about Yosef. This is this major tension that's still sort of unresolved. Is he merely a dreamer, or is he onto something? Will it turn into a davar? Right? Does his dream indicate that there is some Dvar Hashem that has to be?
His father was looking for Shlema Chesed, sign. He guarantees the shame Shlem Pare.
Right.
It's not the same.
It's certainly not. That's right. That's right. So, Areis Boi Dvarei, it says in Tehillim, Areis Boi Dvarei, Imras Hashem Safasu. There's a Davar and there's an Imras Hashem that has to be worked out. And this is the time. Miketz Shasayim Yom is the ace. So, did Yosef find the Davar? Well, not really. He found Shalom Parei. And that's what Yirmiyah says. Why are you telling those who are Menayetz Hashem, Shalom Yelachem? Right? And this indicates that Yosef indeed did not find the Davar. We'll talk about that. Did he or didn't he?
Well, there's such thing as a true dream also.
So what?
It's not Dvar Hashem, but that's not necessarily false.
Right. It's not false, but it's not the Mahalach HaChaim that the Nevi'im want us to live, right?
When
It's incomplete.
Yirmiyah is castigating these people who are Nevi'im because they're only dreamers, he's not saying they're true dreamers, but they're pretending they're more than that. He's saying they're doing wrong.
I don't think so. Look in Pasuk Chavches. He says, "Anavi asher itay chaloim yisaper chaloim. Asher dvari itay yidaber dvar yemes." He has no problem with them doing dream stuff, and probably with Paisrim. You know, what do you mean true dreams? I mean, with you have Paisrim, right? You can make true dreams out of. Pyrrha could have a true dream, right? You don't have to be a ghost about Jacob.
But I mean, outside the Hashem Shalom Yelachem. He's saying not that you shouldn't say that Dvar Hashem is really only a dream. I think he's saying that you shouldn't say that at all. It's wrong.
No, I don't think so. I think this shalom that you find that you can get from a dream, and that's not true shalom.
Oh.
I think so. I think much like Paro, who ironically Yosef Shalom Yelachem, it's going to be a major downfall for Paro, the Maisa, because he's going to bring Yosef for the Shvat, and then that's ultimately is going to lead to destruction of Mitzrayim, right? So the Shalom Paro.
Oh. But not right away.
Right, so it's a delay.
Initially it makes him much more powerful.
Yeah, it's a delay. True. Okay. I hear. Fine. Now, similarly you have in Yirmiyah Perek Ches, Pasuk Yud Aleph. The false Nevi'im, Amarape, the Shever Das Ami, by saying Shalom, Shalom, when there's really no Shalom. The exact same pasuk, basically, you have in Yirmiyah Perek Vav, pasuk Yudalid, Vayirapu es Shever Ami al Nekalo, Neimor Shalom, Shalom, Le'en Shalom. Okay? So that's the problem. The fake Navi is the one who says Shalom, Shalom, again the Kfeilas, when there's really no Shalom. Okay? So that's Yirmiyah's Taina against Yosef. Why are you telling Paroi, who's Menatzai, and he's Halach B'Shur Esliba, why are you telling him Lo Save Aleichem Ra'ah? The same exact thing was showed in Micha Perek Gimel. Micha Perek Gimel Pasuk Hey. Again, we have the people that lead Mas'im, make them go astray, and they call the V'karu Shalom. They call Shalom, and they'll declare war against someone that doesn't give them to eat. So, in other words, they only say Shalom because they need food, like Yosef, who said L'kim Yana Shalom Parei, and L'chayra, if Yosef wouldn't have protected Parei, Yosef would have starved, along with the whole Mitzrayim, right? So he needs food, and of course Yosef is very concerned with food. And al pihem, and Yosef says al picha yishak kol ami, okay? And there the raya that this connects to same pasuk in Yirmiyah, that same passage in Yirmiyah, because if you look further in pasuk Yud Aleph, it says they rely on Hashem, saying Halo Hashem b'kibenu l'savei aleinu ra'ah. So like in Micha Perek Gimel pasuk Yud Aleph, it says they say, oh, no evil is going to befall us. So right, so like in Yirmiyah where he says, don't tell Shalom, don't say Lemana'atzai, don't tell them Shalom Shalom. That's false nevuah. Don't tell them L'savei Aleichem Ra'ah. It's not true. And here too, these people think, the nation thinks, because they have Nevi'im Hamasim, who are telling them Shalom, and therefore you look at Pasuk Vav, it talks about, no, it's going to be dark, and the sun's going to set on the Nevi'im. They're not going to have Chazayim. Ke'ein ma'anei Elikim. Right? There's no ma'anei Elikim to those who always claim Shalom for ulterior motives. They don't really, it's not really coming from God. And then pasuk ches and Micha Gimel ches v'ulam anochi malei sichayach es ruach Hashem v'mishpat agul lahagad Yaakov pisho l'sol chatase. So Micha says, I'll say it the way it is, right? Because I have the real ruach Hashem, and the way it is Shimon Rabba Uzay Sivashu Beis Yaakov Hamasa'av and Mishpat as Kol Yaakov, etc., etc. Okay, and the raya that pulls us all together, and this is really a review of last week, I think, in Mizmor Pei Aleph, which we're all familiar with. It talks about Yosef going and hearing the Svas Yad'ati, Eshema, right? And it talks about the need for Nesov to hear Hashem. But let's look at it inside. Shema Ami, Yisrael Tishmali, V'lo Yishama Ami L'Koili, V'ashacher B'Shmius Libam. Lu Ami Shemeli, if only they would be Shemeh. Those who hate Hashem are mechachish to him. They should suffer forever. Really, their ace should be forever. That means Parash's dream should have put the Mitzrayim into eternal destruction because it would have never recovered. But instead, that's what Yosef did. Yosef gave Paro chelev chita, like it says in Mizmor Kuf Zayin, chelev chita miasbiech, asam gvulech shalom. Right, which we'll see later tonight. Mizmor Kuf Zayin has a lot to do with this. So Yosef gave him shalom, he gave him chelev chita, and really he's Mesani Hashem, who's mechachashulai, right? And what do the mechachashim b'Hashem say in Yirmiyah Perek Hey? The mechachashim b'Hashem say in Yirmiyah Perek Hey pasuk Yud Beis, ki chashu b'Hashem v'yomu loihu v'lo yisavei aleinu ra. So again we have that phrase, and that ties it all together. The lo yisavei aleinu ra is a key word here. Right, that the ra that Pari saw, and by the way, Pari is very concerned with the ra because he says there were paris that were ra'is, and that isi behind the lifetime la ra. He's very worried about the ra, and Yosef is basically telling him lo yisavei alechem ra. Yirmiyah Perek Hey pasuk Yud Beis was the pasuk we're looking at, and those who mekachish b'Hashem, they say lo yisavei aleinu ra v'cherev v'ra v'lo nireh. Right, lo ra'isi behind the lifetime la ra, rav. And Yosef tells him, don't worry about it, it's not going to happen. It isn't going to happen, it's not going to happen. That's what we'll get to. That's very interesting. Right? We'll get to that. And look in Yirmiyah Perek Hey pasuk Yud Beis, v'anaviyim yu l'ruach v'adibeim b'hem. These people say, I don't count the Nevi'im. I don't care what the Nevi'im say. There's no dibur in them. Okay?
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. So that's what we see that what? The mechachashu b'Yisrael Hashem mechachashu loy, and the kichashu b'Hashem are those who say loy v'lo yisavei aleinu ra, and therefore in Micha and in Yirmiyah it talks about telling him lo yisavei aleinu ra. It's dealing with Yosef, who's doing a false nevuah here, as it were. And as we mentioned, I think last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, there's nothing wrong with this. Meaning Yosef, well, there is and there isn't. Yosef is what's called Shlem Shamachos. He's engaged in Shlem Shamachos.
Yeah.
Which means that if you're in Galus, you have to be committed to this kind of quasi-shalom. Which means, what does it mean quasi-shalom? It means to say a shalom is a system, is what could work. Considering what? So if it considers everything, that's called Shalom Shemesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu. If it's considering this particular Malchus Mahalach, that's called Shalom Shemachos. And it's akin to idol worship. So it's Kalak Dar B'chutza. It's I mean to say, if you're committing to a system that's not Shalom Shemesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that's called Shalom Shemachos. So Yosef had to do that, or he thought he had to do that anyways. And Yirmiyah stands for Shalom Shemesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the truth, the nevuah, right? And Yosef is basically engaging with Mechach Hashem v'Hashem, right? And he's giving them shalom when they don't deserve it. That's all.
He thinks he needs to.
He thinks he needs to because he thinks this is his. He thinks he's in Galus, and maybe he is.
What?
He's in Galus. That this is his life. He has no way out, and maybe that's true.
So he's saying
maybe
he's not, but he's saying he's a dream.
Exactly. Which means that the Yaakov is still waiting for the davar. Maybe the davar still hasn't come, like as you said, right? Is this truly a davar? What is this exactly?
Maybe
on the other hand,
it doesn't come then.
We'll see. He used something very interesting. Yes, he did something very interesting up here. We'll see. We'll get to that soon. Okay, now everything revolves around this Sfas, right? Because it says in Mizmor Pei Aleph, Sfas Yad'ati Eshma, language. It's busy with language. And of course, Yosef, Pari starts his dream and says, Sfas Hayaor. So, I want to talk about the Sfas. The Sfas is very interesting. First of all, as we said last week, what's the significance of Pari standing on the Sfas? I think it's because in the dream, the way it's described as he had it, the bad cows came and stood next to the good cows. So he left out that detail that they stood next to him. Why? Because the idea of him, of the bad ones standing next to the good ones, is that good and bad are two sides of the same coin, which is the message of Kehalas, as we discussed. Paro didn't know this. That's what Paro said. I don't know where the bad ones come from. Where they come from? That's why it doesn't say they came from the Yair. He didn't mention that either. That's why it doesn't say they stood next to them as Fasir, because the standing next to them is significant. Why is the pasuk saying they stood next to them? Standing next to them means they're parallel. They don't relate to each other in Paris, right?
And they can't come from the Yair because the Yair is the source of.
They can't come from the Yair, right? They did, but they can't. Doesn't make sense, right?
Because
exactly.
It's the source of their wealth.
Source of the wealth. How could thin cows come from the Yair? How could that be? Right. Now, so the answer is the same. Now we'll talk about what that means. So Paris standing as Fasir Yair. I think the point is, of course, if Paro is Fasir Yair, that means he's controlling what comes out of the Yair, and you can't come to this Fasir Yair. If Paro is there, the cows that Paro can't understand, can't imagine, it don't fit into his mind, will not join him as Fasir Yair.
He's claiming, he's denying them. He's claiming they don't belong here. I'm supposed to keep them out.
Yeah, I'm on this Fasir Yair, and then I have to keep them out. That's basically as sort of begging Yosef, give me a way to keep them out. And Yosef gives him a way to keep them out. That's what's so interesting, right? But he's basically saying, I'm the king over here, and I'm the one who's supposed to be on this Fasir Yair, and everything's supposed to come out of the Yair that comports with what I want, right? Which is this Fasir lo Yadati, meaning okay, we'll get to that too. Now, what does that mean? What does that mean? What does that mean? Why does Paro not realize that good and evil comes together? Because Paro is lo Yadei es Hashem, right? He says lo Yadati es Hashem. And that's Fasir lo Yadati es Shema, of course. The fact that it's this Fasir lo Yadati, it's a language that Yosef doesn't recognize, means it's mitzvahs, but who cares? It's not a different language. It's a language that represents the spitz. Right. That's what they don't know. That's that language doesn't include. Now, okay, so why does Paro not know evil cows? Because he has a Sar Mitzrayim, we'll call him, right? Who's only good. Only good things happen. Only wealth. So Memela, how could there be Ra? Right? That's his kasha. I mean, he has it all worked out, like the Ramban says. They used to worship their Sar. They knew them. I mean, Paro was a great, great wise man, and he knew his Sar, and he knew that his Sar was Mamash Meshunadik, a great Sar, and he always does good stuff. Now, what if there's Hashem? What if there's truly Hashem, and all the Sarim are just whatever they are? However you understand the Malachim, or the Lahim Achim, right? The Ramban calls them. Then the true reality, no Sar is a true absolute reality. Right? He's just one panim of any aspect. But every aspect has two panim, right? If the truth is that Hashem Echad, then as it says in Yishai, there's no shalom without ra, there's no without cheshech, right? Because again, Memelech, the 70 Sarim, and the whole world is broken up into 70, truly broken up into 70, let's say. So Paro says, I found the part of the world where it's Taiv. It's Or and Taiv and Shalom. But really, it's not like that. Really, it is Hashem, and He does everything. So just because you have one thing, some say that.
And the Sarim only taking what He's given.
Right, exactly. So therefore, the Sarim only taking what Hashem is giving, exactly. So therefore, he's getting Taiv means okay. He can get Ra. He's getting Shalom. He can get Chayshich or Ra. Whatever the opposites are. Okay. So fine. That's why Paro keeps on saying, as we mentioned. He says they were Rois. He calls them Rois. In the way it's described, they're not called Rois.
No. Right?
But he says in Pasuk Chaf, Vatechan la'apar harakatz v'ho Rois, and he says in Pasuk Chalaf Aleph, Mari and Ra, and he says in Pasuk Yutes lo Roisi kahinu v'chalab lo Roya. Right? He's very concerned with the Ra. Where's the Ra come from? Okay. Now.
It says Rois Mara without Kospos.
Right. Rois Mara. Right. They're bad of complexion, right? But not that they were bad.
They look bad.
Right. But the Paro calls them evil, bad cows. Yeah. Harois, okay? Right. That's why I didn't mention, by the way, in when I was listing the Rois in Paro's Jim, I did not mention which one again? Right, in Pasuk Yutes, that he calls them Rois Toyar, because that's the same as Rois Mar. The point is that he calls them Rois. Okay. Anyway, so
Shilolim, he doesn't call them Rois.
What?
Shilolim, he doesn't.
I know, and in the Jim also there's no Rois by the Shilolim, so that's okay. Something to think about.
Because again, he describes them specifically as
Okay.
Because we've said before that you recognize this
right,
can happen.
exactly. But so maybe that's not why it's rois, because it's coming from Hashem. I have to think about that. Well, why is that not rois? I mean, he knows that it could come. The Ruach Hashem could come, maybe.
Yes.
So that's maybe not rois. Okay, that's interesting.
But
This
the
why doesn't
cow
come the mama.
never had.
Fine. Right. Okay. So now like this. So again, there's two things happening here, right? There's a sfas le'adat yeshma, there's a sfas yar, and I want to show you how the two go together, and one could prove the other one. Okay. Yosef, Paro told Yosef, as we spoke about in Pasuk Tezvav, Ani shamati alech aleim tishmach aleim. I heard that you hear, and we spoke that Paro is basically inviting him to speak the language of mitzvahs. That's why he says, I hear and you hear, and he says, look, you're a dreamer. Dreams are a language of Mitzrayim, of Galus, and we're the same, right? And that's the sfas Mitzrayim, right? And that's why in Yeshaya Perek Tes, which talks about the bad Yoyatzim and the bad Chacham of Mitzrayim that don't know the Atzas Hashem. In Yeshaya Perek Tes, Pasuk Yud Ches, it says, by Yom Hahud there's going to be 5 cities in Mitzrayim that speak the Sfas Canaan.
Yeah. So that'll be different.
Because that's what the question over here is about. Yosef, who knows the Sod Hashem and knows the Eitz of Hashem, he could speak Sfas Canaan.
Yeah.
And maybe he shouldn't speak Sfas Mitzrayim, right? That's the question over here. Will you speak the Sfas Mitzrayim? That's the tension here. Fine. Now, what did Yosef speak? So he said Shalom Paro. Did he speak the Sfas Mitzrayim, or did he speak the Sfas Canaan? Right? Let's think about it. So what is the Sfas Mitzrayim? The Sfas Mitzrayim is Hinni Omen Sfas Hayar. The Hainu, Paro decides what comes out of the Or, and there can't be evil.
And it comes based on whatever the error is.
Right. And why is that? Because his Safa is the Safa of the Sar Mitzrayim, right? Which is good and wealth and fertility, and there can't be any evil coming out of the river, right? And Yosef tells him there could be, but there won't be. Right? That's the right irony over here. Is that Paro, who insists that we can't have evil in Egypt, ends up being right. But why is he right? Because Yosef tells him, yes, there could, but I'll save you from it. So I think what's happening over here is a very interesting thing. Yosef is mispala b'shleim b'shal malchus, as it were, meaning he speaks the language of Mitzrayim. He makes Mitzrayim work according to the Mitzrayim paradigm, right? But only because he knows Sfas Canaan. You see? He uses his Das Hashem to support a system of the Nile of Hashem and to save them and to make them still continue living in their delusion, right? Paro's delusion is evil can't happen in Mitzrayim, and Yosef tells him, okay, that's what you want to think, fine, I'll help you think that. But in order for you to be able to continue living that way, you need someone who knows that that's not true, because it's not true. And if you,
I'll tell you what to do.
and if you live that way, you're making a big mistake. So take the Jew, right, who knows better than you, and Hosea said, I know what's really going on, but I'll make it shtim with your dimyanis.
To be able to live this way,
exactly.
Because, well, you'll have to be careful. You won't be able to overspend when you have
live this way with certain. I'll give you certain advice. Yeah, if you don't mind refilling me, right? So that's the irony over here. That on the one hand, Paro Yosef is engaging with the Sfas Mitzrayim, but only because he's a master of the Sfas Canaan. Right? That's the in between thing that's happening over here. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
He gives him an answer. He says
exactly.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right.
He gets somebody who's not even a chacham, not you.
Yes. Right. Okay, so that's what the Nevi'im. Yeah.
What is it?
And remember, we remember the pasuk is where the Navi says he's not a Navi, right? Do you remember that? The Navi uses this Ein Navi V'Chacham to say Nishkan Geisa Navi, Nishkan Geisa Chacham. I forgot which Navi. Okay. Anyways, so now the Nevi'im basically take Yosef to task. That's what we said in Micha Perek Gimel. Why are you telling me Paro Shalom and Yirmiyahu? So why are you giving him Shalom? This is you're doing a fake Shalom. And now, and I commented this last week, and this is where I want to spring from here. I'm going to show you something very interesting. In Yeshaya Seif Perek Nun Zayin, state Yeshaya Seif Perek Nun Zayin. Let's see. B'orei nivs v'sayim, Hashem creates the fruit of the lips. Shalom l'rochak v'lakar b'mar Hashem v'vasiv. So Hashem creates the product of the lips, which is Shalom l'rochak v'lakariv, right? V'rasham kayom nigrash, but the rasham are like a sea that churns. Ki hashkeit lo yuchal, it cannot be still. V'yigushu mim b'refesh v'tit, and the waters churn and they make muck and mud, right? Ein Shalom Amar Lekai Lo Rashan. Okay, that's Yim Yosef Perek Nun Zayin. So the fruit of the lips is Shalom. Now, what does that mean? Why is the fruit of the lips Shalom? Because of what we're talking about. That the word that we look to say, and again, I maintain this is why we always say Shalom when we meet people. This is the key word we're looking for. This is the fruit of the lips is Shalom. Shalom L'Rachik V'L'Karv. And Ein Shalom L'Rashan. I just want to review quickly some connections we spoke about in Parashat Vayeshev. In Pasuk Yud Zayin there, and then the Perek Nun Zayin in Yeshaya, it talks about the sin of Betzah. Ba'avoim bitzoi katzafti va'akeu haster ve'ektzoi. So Yehuda said na Betzah, and then there was a hester ponim, right? And similarly in Yirmiyah, those psukim about the Nevi'im that say Shalom Shalom when there isn't Shalom, right? Those psukim we read, both of those places, the pasuk right before that talks about Miktanam ad gedolim kuloi b'tzei Betzah. So the Betzah leads to a fake Shalom. They think there's Shalom, but there's not. Okay? And then also it says in Yeshaya Perek Nun Zayin over there, it says, Derochav ro'isi ve'erpa'eu va'anchi va'ashalom nichumim loy v'avilov. I will give nechama to him and to his mourners. Who got nechama to him and his mourners? Yosef, because Yosef was left for dead.
Yeah.
But he wasn't dead. So he missed his parents, his father and his family. And his father was Vayimanoyin Lehisnachem.
Right.
And Hashem gave Nichumim Loi Va'alev Lov. B'arei Nivsosom Shalom Shalom L'Rachik V'L'Karv. So is there Shalom for far and near? Now first of all, it's a very interesting question, is there Shalom for far and near? Why? Because the brothers were Lo Yochlu Daber Yidol Shalom. Why? Because Vayiru Oisei Me'Rachik U'etem Yikrav Aleim V'Yisnaku L'Yisei Laham Yisei, right?
Yeah.
They said, you're Rachik, you're not Karv. And you remember Yirmiyah says in Perek Chav Gimel, Lekemi Rachik Ani Lekemi Karv Ani Lekemi Rachik. The opposite, I forgot. I fill heaven and earth, right?
Yeah.
Which is what Yosef said, no, he doesn't. I'm a dreamer. He doesn't fill heaven and earth. As it says in Gerlis. Right? If Hashem doesn't fill heaven and earth, he's far away, then you have to dream.
But if you have enough,
then so it's Karv. So the brothers say, Vayiru Oisei Me'Rachik, he's not Karv, he's Rachik. No, just Leichel Daber L'Shalom. Here Yeshaya says, Shalom Shalom L'Rachik V'L'Karv. Because what?
Even the Rachik is supposed to have Shalom?
I don't know. Yosef is supposed to have Shalom. He's not a Rasha. The Rishayim, however, says in the end of... So Yeshaya differentiates between the Rachik who gets Shalom, but not the Rishayim. Right? The Rishayim do not. Why?
Right.
Because they are Kayom Nigrash. They cannot rest. And then they make refuge with it. Ein Shalom Amar Lekai Lo Rashan. I want to explain to you soon how that refers to Paroi. But first, I want to prove to you that this is working with Micha, okay? Because if you look a little further in Yeshaya, the next pasuk says, raise up your voice, in Parek Nuches, v'hagid la'ami pish'am, v'levesi Yaakov chatesam, tell them what's wrong, and they don't know why I don't answer them, right? They say, lama tamru v'lo ra'isu, and you know when I should say that, right?
Yeah.
And you're going to tell them what's wrong. And look in Micha, Parek Gimel, Parek we've been discussing, and there it says, Micha Parek Gimel, it says, Micha Perek Gimel Pasuk Dalet Az Yizaku Hashem V'lo Ya'aneh V'yaster Panav Mehem, right? The people that are calling Shalom and they don't deserve it. Pasuk Ches, Perek Gimel Pasuk Ches V'ulam Anochi Malesi Koyach Ruach Hashem Bishpat V'gur L'hagid Yaakov Peshoy L'Yisrael Chatosoi. So just like in Yeshaya it says V'hagid La'ami Pisham L'vesi Yaakov Chatosam, and tell them why they call and I don't answer. Yeah. Similarly, in Micha, the same thing. I can tell them, right, the Pesha and the Chatas, and I can tell them why they call and don't answer, and I can tell them why there's Hester, right? You see in Pasuk, in Gimel Pasuk Dalet, in Micha, Oz Yizak Wal Hashem V'lo Ya'aneh V'yaster Panav Mehem. Like Yeshaya talks about Hester, and I don't answer them. So you see these two views. Let's go together. We know. We can tell you when the Shalom is appropriate, right, and when not, because we can call out the Pesha and the Chatas. Okay, now. Right, so Nevi'im know what's Shalom and what's not. They're the ones who know what the Nivso sign is, right? They're the ones who really know the Nivso. That's the real Nevi'im. Exactly, the real Nevi'im know the true Nivso sign. Okay, now let's see back in Yeshaya in that parak. So what does it say? It says, "V'arsham kayam nigrash, v'ashkeit lo yuchal, v'yigishu meimav ושפת, אין שלום אמר לך לשם. So you know why the Shalom don't get Shalom? Because they are like a river and they have muck and mud. ושפת. Okay? Say that.
Okay, what does that mean?
See in a minute. Look at Amos. Ches. And this is another, it's going to bring us to another significance of the Safa, of the Sfas. The Sfas. Sfas Hayom. This is Hafla Fel. Amos, Perek Ches, Pasuk Ches. This is about the Nevuah where he sees a Kluv Kayetz, and that's a message that Ba Kates. And if you remember the Shvatim Vayisrael named Vayiro, they're supposed to see a Kluv Kayetz, and they're supposed to know that the Kates is coming. And the Navi talks about those who try to ambush or the Ani and to sell him for shoes, right? Mamish Yosef and get bar, right? And then Pasuk Zayin, Hashem swore he won't forget. Vayishkachehu, but Hashem did not forget. The Kates will come, right? Won't this make the whole Aretz be rugged? But also, the whole Aretz is going to become muddied. Rashi tells the pasuk in Yeshaya, muddied refesh v'tit, like the Yermitzayim. When the Yermitzayim comes up, it deposits the silt, it makes all the mud, right? And the Aretz, the Navi Amos is saying that the Aretz is going to become muddied because of these sins. Basically, there's going to be a tishtush between the Aretz and the water, right? And that's he says again in Perek Tes pasuk Hey v'osa chayar kula v'shak kiyamitza. Okay, look at Perek Tes pasuk V'Hashem Elokim matzvakas hanegea ba'aretz v'tamlik. He's going to make the Aretz melt, and it's going to become watery. Okay, so what that means is like this. So what he's saying is like this. What he's saying is that they're bad people. These people are bad people. These people who sell the they sell exactly. They sell the people. They sell the ani for shoes. That's very awful. So therefore, their aretz is going to get muddied. Okay. Now, like the river of Mitzrayim. What do you have against the river of Mitzrayim overflowing its banks? You have something very major against that, because that symbolizes that Mitzrayim is not aretz and it's not water. It's azab bilbo. Why? Because Meila Eretz Yisrael B'tar Shemayim Tishtemai, right? It's Kimei Shemayim al Aretz. There's aretz and there's Shemayim, and they meet and it's beautiful and it's merdek. That's Eretz Yisrael. But the aretz is an aretz. It's not a watery half aretz, half water, half yar. The muddiness, the Nevi'im are using muddiness against the Rishon because they're saying, look, against the Rishon, specifically Paro in Mitzrayim, as we see in Amos. Because the fact that Mitzrayim gets water from its Yar, and the fact that the Yar overflows, right? It means that Mitzrayim is not really an Aretz, as it were. It's really mud. Okay? Which of course has an Eimek. What Aretz is and what Mayim is, not going to go into the Eimek. But in terms of the symbolism, this sets the stage for Mitzrayim, of course, to drown in the Yam Suf, right? Yeah. And this is it. This is the difference between Eretz Yisrael and Mitzrayim. Eretz Yisrael doesn't have a river, and Mitzrayim doesn't. It's a chassan from Mitzrayim because it means that they're muddy, and these are Rishon who don't deserve Shalom. Okay? Why does that mean?
They live in such a place.
Yeah. Well, they have to get the idea of that. No, because living with a river is problematic. Right? You need V'haim Shemayim.
So again, is it because they're that way, therefore they live that way, or is it because they live that way, therefore they become that way?
Because they live that way, they're hopeless.
Is the problem of them also.
Correct. So what? So they shouldn't get Shalom either then, right?
Is it because of the river? Or
yeah, because of the river, that's going to make them the abominable people, and they don't get Shalom.
So basically, because of where they live.
Yes.
So you could.
No, because of where they live. Now, in what instance then does the Rachik get Shalom? Is a good, interesting question. I have to think about that, right? Now, what's the pshar here? The Rachik gets Shalom. That means even though he's l'chayra a galus person, as long as he's not in a river. Yeah, l'chayra if he's in galus refesh v'tit, right? I mean, the answer might be, by the way, I have to think about this. Bavel's river doesn't overflow.
It's true.
So maybe you want to go to galus, go to Bavel, go to Mitzrayim. Okay,
the rivers there do not overflow.
Right,
although they do use them for irrigation.
And the Gemara says Bavel is Keretz Yisrael, ironically, right? And Mitzrayim is not Keretz Yisrael, so. Even though Bavel has river. Okay, we have to think deeply about this.
It has rivers, but they're not the same.
They're not in English or Limbo, so for some reason that's a big deal. Oh, so now Paroi is Osfasei Oi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Safa is what demarcates the land from the water, right? Mm-hmm. Now let's look at Yirmiyah Parakeh, and you'll see how it all comes together. Okay? Yimra Perkei, Pasuk Yud Beis talks about those who are Mekachish Hashem and say Loihu. This is Yimra Perkei, Pasuk Yud Beis. They deny Hashem, they say it doesn't exist, that no evil will befall them and they won't see Ra'av. And Pasuk Yud Beis says they say that the Nevi'im have no Dibur. So Hashem says, oh, do they have a Dibur? And it's going to be like fire, it's going to consume them. And Pasuk Tesvav says that a nation is going to come against Beis Yisrael. Because that's the problem. The problem is that you're Mekachish B'Hashem is you're speaking the language of Mitzrayim.
Well, this is not
instead,
Mitzrayim, but okay.
I know, but the point is you need that's the point. You need a guy that lo say that l'shayne so that you don't get influenced by them, because that's the problem. Okay?
Well, then you end up learning it.
Okay, that's what you say.
Alright, fine.
But that's a message. The message is lo yishma l'shayne. The message is
look, someone we didn't know before.
No, but that's Karab Lashon and Lashon Torah actually. But okay,
yeah.
The Gemara says no, and then it says in Pasuk Chaf, Hagidu Zayis V'Yisakav Hashmiuha BiYehuda Shimu Nazayis. The message is Shimu, right? There's Nayim V'Melishmo. The message is how come you're not Shemei B'Kol Hashem? Instead, you're going to hear. You have a guy that lo say Lashon lo yishma madaber, but you have to listen to B'Kol Hashem. Now look at Pasuk Chaf Beis. Ha'oisi lo yisirau no Hashem impana lo yisachilu asher samdi choil gevol hayom. You should fear Hashem because He made the sand. The fact that the waters try to overcome the sand and can't, that makes you fear Hashem. Okay?
The fact that He separates between
the fact that He separates
land and
the water, right? So really the Safa, and then look at the next part, 2 seconds later. Again, why you should fear Hashem? Which of course is from Rehaim Shemay, right? So why should you fear Hashem? Because He delineates between land and sea, and He makes it rain. Those two things go together. Because there are some places where it doesn't rain. Instead, there's no clear demarcation between land and sea. So the message of the Safa...
It's right. It's
right.
Yeah.
The message of the Sfas HaYaor is really that there's supposed to be a difference between... And in some places there is a difference between the land and the sea. And Hashem did that. Hashem made the chos, so you should fear Hashem. Because Hashem has this power.
You say Sfas HaYaor, that's an edge, that's a... That's the demarcation.
Right, so that's why Paro. He's supposed to take a lesson from this fast. The lesson that Paro should have taken and Yosef should have taken is don't give shalom to him, because how come he's not? Meaning from this fast that Paro had, he was supposed to take a lesson that he didn't take.
Because Paro said Sfas HaYaor, but Paro didn't see Sfas HaYaor.
Oh, so you're saying right? Okay, so you're saying here it's shver because I'm saying what he said is something. Okay, let's see if that works out here. Let's see. I think you're right. It's a good halacha. Good. Now, look in Yirmiyah.
He wants to dictate where the Safa is, but
where the Safa is? No.
Well, what comes out? All right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, yeah. It's interesting that Yaakov gave him a bracha to bring the water up. So.
Yeah. Okay.
In Parak Memvav in Yirmiyah, it's very clear. In Parak Memvav in Yirmiyah Pasuk Zayin, it says, "Mizeh kayaor ya'aleh kanahoros yizgashu meimov." Right? Yeah. Who do you think it is? Mitzrayim kayaor ya'aleh v'chanahoros yizgashu moim vayom ya'aleh v'chasa eretz. So, as it says in Yirmiyah Parakei that Hashem, you should fear Hashem because He makes the choil that keeps the water back from vayizgashu v'lo yichalu. But Mitzrayim is vayizgashu v'yichalu v'yala, right? Because Mitzrayim overflows the banks. So the Sfas HaYaor contains a message to fear Hashem and to recognize Hashem who separates from Yom and Yabasha and instead makes rain come from the heavens. And that's epitomized by the Safa. Paro does not know this message, and therefore ain't shalom, because Vayigushu mem of refesh vatit. Okay?
Yeah,
so you see one second. So Boyre Nivs Vasayim, which we finish up. So Boyre Nivs Vasayim, that's the remez in Yishai. Boyre Nivs Vasayim, what's the real niv of the Safa? Is shalom. Does Paro worthy of that niv of the Safa? No. Because he doesn't appreciate the Safa, the Sfas HaYaor, for being a demarcation, delineation. Instead, he's refresh with tid. He mixes up Yar and Arts. Right? Because that's what's in this.
Is that why Yirmiyah is first referencing Pras?
Where?
Right before.
Persia. Oh, in the Har Pras. Okay, yeah.
Mm-hmm. With the stuff.
Okay.
Yes,
yes, I see. Right. Right. So what are you saying? What are you suggesting? Yes, yes. So what are you suggesting?
I'm not here.
Interesting. Right. You have to look at that closely.
You're not supposed to.
Yeah, yeah. We have to look at that closely. Right. Very interesting. Right, the river
The
crosses
distinction
right.
between
Perhaps, right.
Is
He just mentioned the river Pras, and he's like, okay, then he talks about which river overflows its banks. It's trying, yeah, very
Pras
interesting.
doesn't.
Right, you have to look at that closely. Very good.
I mean, if
Now,
it does, when it does, it's a disaster.
Right, that's supposed to. It's not part of the Mahalach. It's not
No.
a Mahalach. Bad things always happen. Weird things. Okay, now like this. Back to Parak Yutes in Mishai, which talks about the Eitzah of Para. You don't know what they're talking about because they don't know Atzas Hashem. But one day the day will come where they'll speak Svas Canaan, right? The way that Parak begins, Masa Mitzrayim, Parak Yutes in Mishai, Masa Mitzrayim, Hini Hashem Roichev al Ov Kal. Hashem is going to be riding on a light cloud, on a swift cloud, right? Ubam Mitzrayim. So there's this cosmic battle between Hashem and the Alilei Mitzrayim. And Hashem comes riding on a swift cloud, and that's of course Hashem makes the rain come from the heavens. That's how he's more powerful than the Alilei Mitzrayim, who don't control the heavens, don't control the rain. Okay, and that's the point. This battle between the Atzas Hashem and the Atzas Para, Atzas Para, is epitomized by this difference between Eretz Yisrael and Mitzrayim. That Hashem controls the heavens. Atzas Hashemayim. That's how Hashem is Mefanis, right?
Okay, how do you translate Mitzrayim?
That he'll make Mitzrayim make fights between Mitzrayim and Mitzrayim. Yeah, Hashem will do that. Hashem will do that.
Okay.
Hashem is going to put this order into Mitzrayim, right? Put this order into Mitzrayim.
He's gonna make civil war.
Yeah, very clear, right? But that's the point is that the reason why it's significant civil war is because his point is that he's going to show that their ruach and their eitzah is completely. It's not that there's something more. It's not like like we said in Mika, it's two things. The two dreams. One was that there's rot within Mitzrayim, right? And one is that there's something external that could. There's external. Paraphrase understands, but he doesn't understand that there's rot within, that there could be rot within Mitzrayim. Same thing happened over here. Right, Hashem is going to show. It's come with Avkol. All of a sudden, the Alilei Mitzrayim are not going to be able to. Not because he's overpowering them, because he demonstrates that they're nothing, that they have problems. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They actually have no power.
Exactly right. So but that's epitomized by this Geshem and Nahar thing, and therefore we have in our parak too. Okay. Now
you were aware of the interpretation, which seems to be the Balakina learns that Suksach Mitzrayim is the Yitzim Mitzrayim.
Okay. Good.
Maybe he's using it poetically. I don't know.
No. I think it's interesting. I mean, I think the okay, it's a very interesting point. Now, in the Tilim Pei Aleph, it says in the end, and we said, Yosef took the Masani Hashem Michach they really should have had Itam La'olam. Right? That pasuk is very abrupt. Masani Hashem Michach V'hi Itam La'olam, who? So some people say it's going back on Yisrael, 2 psukim before. I say, no, it's going back on Masani Hashem. Who really should have had Itam La'olam. There it should be forever. But someone else, Yosef, was obviously representative of Hashem, but some strange thing happening, unexpected thing, and he's Machal Chilef Chita, right? Which is now who's Chilef Chita supposed to be for? Let's look at Mizmor Kufam Zayin. In Mizmor Kufam Zayin, it makes it very clear who the Chilef Chita is supposed to be for and under what circumstances. Shabechi Yerushalayim Les Hashem. Hallelujah Lahayich Tzion. Ki Chizak B'Chei Sharoyech Berech Benech Bekirvech. Hasam Gvulech Shalom Chilef Chita Miasbiech. So it's all about Yerushalayim Tzion, right? And their boundaries. And the parak ends, the people of Yadati are not supposed to get Chelev Chita. They're not supposed to get Shalom. Now let's go to the psukim we skipped. Hashalech im rasai aretz. Hashem's word does come down to the aretz. And here we are, it's Devarei. The loy kimosh amar Yosef. Hashalech im rasai aretz imras Hashem tzurafasu. This is the imras Hashem that Yosef has to work out. And Yosef thinks that the word stays in Shemayim, doesn't come to the aretz, and that's why he was Devarech Ma'atim, as we spoke last week, because he's talking to Paro, and therefore he doesn't work out the davar. He could have said Dvar Rabim. He could have said the whole Sefer Yirmiyah, the whole Sefer Yishai. Instead he tells Paro, Shalom Paro, work it out. Let me figure this out. He doesn't give him Dvar Rabim. He's not ready to work out the davar Legami, because he thinks that Elokim B'Shemayim Atal Aretz. And here it says no. Hashalechem B'Sei Aretz. And here it's Devar. Hanoisen Shalak Atzon Kriyik Yifazim Mashachavet. Yishach Devar V'Yamsi Mashiv V'Chiz L'Mayim. Hashem sends his davar. Hashem sends his ruach, and Hashem makes the water. Magid Devar of Liyaakov, they get the davar Chukom Mishpat of Yisrael, and not Chol Goy. So Yosef is talking to Mishpat, to the Goy, Mishpat and Balidom. They don't get this davar. Okay, and if you look earlier in the Mizmor, it says what? Earlier in the Mizmor, yeah, it says Machas Hashemayim Ba'Avin, Hamechin La'atz Mota. Hashem makes it rain, and he gives the food to the animals. Loi bigvuras hasos yechbot. Hashem does not want the horse, right? Hashem does not want the horse. He wants Yireav hu amiyachal l'chastoi. And of course, this lashon takes us back to Mizmor Lamed Gimel. It says, Sheker hasos l'shua v'chila l'yimalet hine ein Hashem l'yireav machal l'chastoi latzoi mavs l'Hashem l'chayosam bara'av. So Hashem doesn't want the sus, he wants those Yireav. And what are the Yireav? Amiyachal l'chastoi. What's he going to do to them? He's going to save them in a rav. Aha. So that's the whole question over here. And by the way, look at that Mizmor. Yeah, Shem Hashem, right? There's a Shem Hashem. We go by Shem Hashem. And if you look at that Mizmor Lamed Gimel,
on the source.
very good. If you look at Mizmor Lamed Gimel, pasuk Zayin, it says Koines kan mein mehayim. So Hashem holds back the sea. He holds back the sea, and he doesn't want the sus.
Well, he
doesn't want the sus. Let's finish. He doesn't want the sus, right? He doesn't want the sus. He holds back the sea. Instead, how is he going to save people from Ra'av if they're Yireav? Right? That's the same thing we have in Mizmor Kufam Zayin. Not the sus. Now, a few more things, a few more minutes, and then we'll give you all the hars. Right? Because the question is the Rav. There's a Rav coming on the time, of course. So Yosef could have said, and should have said maybe, I said, Lakim ani Yareh, and fine, everything's going to be fine for Yosef, because we don't need the sus. Now, of course, we know who the sus people are, right? Mitzrayim is the place of sus. Yes. Now, exactly. Now, look in Yeshaya, Perek Zayin. Yeshaya Perek Zayin, it talks about the Banim Soirim who are doing an Eitzah not from Hashem, and they're going down to Mitzrayim, and they're going down to Mois Pai. We spoke about this, that the going down to Mitzrayim that happened for Yosef was Pi Hashem Lo Sha'olu, as it says. They didn't ask Hashem. It's happening in this funny way. And it wasn't with Hashem's Eitzah. And there it says also, Pasuk Vav, in Perek Lam, Pasuk Vav talks about the Dabeshes of Gemalim. And we spoke about this in Bayeshev, when they saw the Gemalim Noisim, and Yosef and Yaakov sent down Ma'at Tzuri, Ma'at Tevash. Okay, just reminding you. And they're going down to Mitzrayim, and Mitzrayim won't help. Perek Lam, Pasuk Zayin, Mitzrayim doesn't help you. And then in Pasuk Tes it says, they're Bonim Kechoshim. They're Bonim Kechoshim, and that's the Kachash. Right? They're Bonim Kechoshim, and the next Pasuk in you, they tell the Nevi'im, don't see anything. So that's the Michachesh Bashem, and they go down to Mitzrayim, right? And in Pasuk Tezvav it says Hashem told them your might could be with hashkit bavitcha, but you don't want it. V'toimru loichi al sus nonos. We want horses. That's the problem. Okay. Instead, look right in Pasuk Chav, in that Perek Lamed, Pasuk Yutes and Chav, you could have stayed in Tzion, and v'nosam l'cha Hashem lechem tzar umayim lachatz. Everything would have been fine. You wouldn't have had a lot of food, but it would be coming from Hashem. Instead of you wanting to run on horses. Okay? So there's a question about the horse of Mitzrayim. Now, yeah, I don't know what that is. And now in Hosea, I want to show you two more horse references, and with this we will end. Two more references to the Susim. At the end of Hosea, it says, famous psukim from Shuva Yisrael, Asher lo yoshienu, Asus lo nirkav, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, hold that place, and I want to show you what we have in Micha. Micha in Perek Hey, which is very similar to the end of Hosea. So Micha Perek Gimel we looked at. Micha Perek Dal we spoke about a lot. We're not talking about that now. In Micha Perek Hey it says, here's some of the psukim that are similar to Hosea. Perek Hey Pasuk Vav, V'hoya she'eres Yaakov b'tkerev Amram katal meis Hashem. And in Hosea it says, Eyach atal Yisrael yifrach kasher shano. Okay, V'hoya she'eres Yaakov agoyim. Back to Micha. There, okay. Sorry, skip that. Look at Pasuk Tes. V'hoya b'yom hahunam Hashem v'chrati susecha. Mikebecha. You will no longer need susim. No longer need susim. Right? V'chrati, etc., etc. And by the way, there it says, in Micha Perek Hey Pasuk Beis v'lo yishtachah ve'oil l'maaseh yodecha, and like it says in Hosea, v'lo asus lo nirkav v'lo namar Eloheinu l'maaseh yodeinu. Right? Mm-hmm. And now, if you look at, go back to Hosea in the famous pasuk, K'hui mochem devarim, shuvu Hashem, take the devarim. You go back to Hashem. Imru elav kol tisav v'nekach toiv, Unashalmu parim sosenu. So I want to say, Al tikri parim ela piryam. Where am I coming from? Where do I get such a crazy idea from? Because in the Shivim, it translates it as fruit. And some people say it means the fruit. So I could say, Al tikri, or whatever you want to say, it means the fruit of the safa. So we're going to, the fruit of the safa is the nedarim and nedavos that we made. Unashalmu piryam sosenu. We will be mishalim after mashal neder, the fruit of our safa. And the support for this, right, obviously, but the support for this is because the nivs v'sayim is shalom. And in order to get the nivs v'sayim, you have to say ein shalom to the rishayim, right? And recognize that Mitzrayim is bad and they don't get shalom. Don't want the susim of Mitzrayim, asos lo nirkav. And then you'll get the pri of the safa, the nivs v'sayim. So this, the whole thing is about looking for the pri v'sayim, or the nivs v'sayim, right? Yishai calls it nivs v'sayim, it's a very interesting lesson. So similarly, pirim sosenu, the pri of the safa is shalom, and that depends on not counting on Mitzrayim and not making this fake shalom, which is shalom to Rishon, that's ain't shalom. And that's all about the question of the Rav, right? The lechem tzayim mayim lachatz is not to rely on Mitzrayim to get.
To go only look for the new
Right. And maybe that, and probably it means lechem tzayim mayim lachatz also means that, Dvar Hashem Yakar, we saw in the Omes, the Rav LaLechem is the Rav Dvar Hashem. But it doesn't mean there's no Dvar Hashem. Maybe there's a Rav. Right? Maybe that's what it means. You have to think about that. By the way, Hoyunak words, you have to think about it. Maybe that's what it means. Yeah. It will be Re'iyah. But Kapanim, we have to think about that. But maybe that's an interesting idea over here, that even if there's no Nevuah, and Yosef anticipates the concept of there's no Nevuah, maybe there's Tumahalcha. Maybe you could say, Tzachim Tzar Mayim Lachatz, and maybe say, well, we have to do something else. That could be the Machlokes. Okay, I don't really think about it.
Or maybe that if you